I still remember that morning as clearly as if it were yesterday. The harmattan wind had swept through the village overnight, coating our roofs with red dust and leaving the air dry and thin like old cloth. I was sitting outside my compound, peeling groundnuts with my youngest daughter when the drummers began to play. Everyone in Umoma knew what that rhythm meant. It was a wedding, and not just any wedding. It was the marriage of Nadi, the son of Chief Uzo. Nadi, the most eligible bachelor in 3 villages, strong like a bull, educated up to the teacher's level and with skin the color of roasted yam. Girls prayed to meet him at the stream. Mothers prayed he would marry their daughters. So, when the chief announced that Nadi had found a bride from the next village, I was surprised. No one had seen her, no courting, no visits, not even rumors. But the chief said she was from good stock, the daughter of a respected elder named Ogbuefi in the village of Isiala, and that was enough, until the day she arrived. Her name was Adanma. She came with the bridal procession that morning, dancing, smiling, her head high, gill-tied in the colors of wine and gold. Her skin glowed like river stone after rain, and her eyes never stayed still, like they were watching something only she could see. But that wasn't what made the village go silent. No, it was the sand. You see, every bride must walk the central path into the compound, past the elders, past the drummers, past the young girls shaking waist and throwing flowers. It's a sacred path, one every bride before her has taken. A path where dust rises with your joy. But as Adanma walked, not a single grain moved beneath her feet. I was sitting with the other elders, and I remember Elder Mazi Obi squinting, leaning forward. "Did you see that?" he asked. "What?" I said. She walked from the gate to the compound. "Look at the sand." We looked. It was smooth, untouched, like wind had just swept it. The girls who came after her left tiny prints, slippers dragging, anklets marking, but Adanma, nothing. We kept quiet, not because we didn't notice, but because the drums were too loud, the meat was too sweet, and the chief's pride was too thick. Who would speak first? That evening, the sky turned orange with a strange heat, not hot, but humming. The kind of heat that makes goats restless and birds go silent. People said it was just wedding spirits blessing the day. But the night after the wedding, strange things began. First, it was the dogs. Every dog in Omoma began howling, low, mournful sounds like women mourning in the bush. They circled Anadi's compound, tails down, ears low. They barked not at the door, but at the roof. Then the widow Mama Oji, who lived across the road, said she saw Adanma standing outside in the middle of the night, not sitting, not walking, just standing, still, looking up at the moon. She called out, but Adanma didn't respond. She only turned and walked back inside. And even then, the sand behind her was smooth. People started whispering. The women at the stream said her wrapper never got wet. Even when she fetched water, not a single drop touched her legs. The children who played in the compound said she didn't cast a shadow after sunset. One even swore that when he looked at her directly, her eyes blinked twice, but not together, one after the other. But Nadi, he was in love, blindly so. He said people were jealous, that his wife was pure, that it was dustless feet, not footless walks. He laughed, even when his palm wine soured in the calabash without warning, even when his yam barn, full to the roof after harvest, turned to rot within 2 weeks. We elders met. It was Oba Ezenwa, the oldest among us, who finally said what no one wanted to say. "She is not one of us." The chief refused to believe it. But then his second wife, Mama Nkechi, fell ill. Her skin turned pale like pop. Her voice, usually sharp as razor, became so faint we couldn't hear her speak unless we leaned in. She pointed toward Anadi's compound, but her words never came out. That night, the rain fell without warning. Rain in Hamatan, a heavy downpour, enough to wash the sand clean. So the next morning, all eyes were on the compound floor. We waited, some pretending to buy pepper, some pretending to pass by. Adanma came out as usual, carrying her calabash of palm oil to the fire. The sand was wet. She walked, and still, nothing. No footprints. That evening, Nadi didn't come out. His compound was quiet, too quiet. When his mother sent his younger brother to call him, the boy came back weeping. Nadi was gone, not dead, just not there. His wrapper was still on the bed. His sandals still at the door, but no sign of struggle, no blood, no sound. Just the smell of river water in the air. And Adanma? She was sitting in the middle of the room, brushing her hair. The chief called for diviners, but none would enter. One told him, "You married your son to someone who was never born." Eventually, the chief ordered her to leave. She said nothing, just tied her wrapper, picked up her basket of cola and walked out of Umoma the same way she came. Even then, no footprints. No one knows where she went. Some say she returned to the river that bore her. Others say she walks from village to village, marrying those whose hearts are too open, too foolish. But in Umo Oma, her story became a lesson. Now, before any wedding, the bride must walk the village path 3 times barefoot, in full view of the elders. It is no longer just tradition, it is protection. As for me, I never speak her name when the wind is blowing west. Some names are better left in silence. Not every beauty that knocks is meant to stay. Some come to collect, not to build.